Now we're on to Netflix. Netflix is a big one.
Oh,
There's
man.
a lot
We'll
of topics here
for
for
hour.
them.
I have my own thoughts on these things. Okay, want me to start it off?
Go ahead.
Netflix. Any Netflix subscribers in the chat tonight? Yay!
Not to their streaming service, but I do still get their DVDs.
Okay. What?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anyone still did that.
Yeah.
Okay.
If there's a movie that I want or a series that I want.
Okay.
I want. Okay. I want. You see what I'm saying here?
Okay.
Army Hardy.
Oh, I see what you mean. I know nothing. Anyway, moving up. Do you want to paste the article in there, Troy?
Yep.
Okay.
Am I correct? This was about the streaming service.
Yes.
Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if my service isn't close behind too.
We're raising the price standard plan, going from $12.99 to $13.99, an increase of 8%. The premium tier, $15.99 to $17.99. These are for the HD Netflix. Why would you get anything but unless you still are using a standard definition television? Okay.
So on the one hand, there's inflation, cost of living, things get more expensive. Kind of understand it, especially now because, in theory, more people are streaming. There is more competition. There is more for them to do. So, and they're trying to provide more content, and that comes at a price. So to some degree, I kind of understand it from a pure business standpoint.
But is it also because subscriptions are down?
Yeah. So that brings us to the next one. Let me drop this one. So their membership is not going up. It's at least stagnated, and it looks like it's dropping. And I don't know. That does cause you to wonder. You're raising prices, but you're stagnating or losing membership. Is that really the way you want to go? Or are you going to push more people away? But nonetheless, the numbers aren't looking so good for Netflix. And another part of it is these things, it's usually not just one thing, right? You look at the headline. Was Cuties fallout to blame for Netflix sharply slowing growth? Slowing growth, not, like they're going bankrupt or anything like that, but
maybe people are like, do I want to subscribe to the Cuties network? Now, Cuties, of course, was I believe, a movie, correct?
Right.
That was shown. Some people call it a film. Some people call it a documentary. I'm not sure what it is. I have not watched it. I am avoiding watching it for several reasons. The accusations that it is a hypersexualization of children, and the director would argue, well, that's what I was criticizing. Okay. And
here's the interesting
condemned for exploiting it. Okay.
I can bring kind of an interesting perspective that I don't think that most of our outlets are really covering, and that's the legalities of what's happening. I like to follow some legal commentators on YouTube, Barnes Law and Viva Fry. Just because I find the law to be very interesting. And so there's this case out of Texas where they're investigating Netflix over the Cuties thing. There's probably not going to be anything that comes of it, but especially because it was filmed in France or something like that.
Yeah, filmed in France.
The production and filming of it does not fall under U.S. jurisdiction. However, if you are a platform that carries, material that's considered illegal by certain definitions, just being in possession. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Carry on.
I could talk. Do what you got to do. But yeah, if it's considered, if you're in possession of something like this, you're going to be in trouble, I suppose, legal trouble. All right.
Right. And that's not just, I mean, obviously they go after Netflix first, but in theory, you get it from Netflix. Now you own it. We consider this to be, a controlled product. You are now in possession of an illegal product. Now you're liable for it.
Now, are you liable if you just watch it? If it's watched streaming?
I suppose not, because it's a question of possession. It's like if you download something and it's on your computer, that's possession. That's illegal. But something like this, no, probably not. But if you buy a DVD, yeah, it's the kind of thing, though, that this is such a sensitive topic. Most people would be like, I mean, you've noticed I've been going out of my way not to call it by any label.
This is one of these things, the old expression, I'm not touching this with a 10-foot pole. And
exactly.
I've been avoiding talking about Cuties. I have heard a lot about it, hearsay from other videos and stuff.
The reason that this I find so interesting from a legal standpoint, and what you were saying about the possession versus just viewing kind of a thing, it comes up with, believe it or not, when people are talking about the whole Hunter Biden computer thing. Now, no one has said that any of that kind of material was on his laptop, but it was used as an example in legal speak for, the computer is left at a repair facility, not picked up. Now, what do I do with this thing? Right. And if you have reason to believe that something illegal is on it, technically, after it's been abandoned, you are now in possession of it. It is now yours, and that you are now responsible for it. And if there is something on it that you should not be in possession of, what you do with it is very touchy, because, just saying, hey, look, I've got this illegal thing. Okay, well, you're in trouble now, but it wasn't mine. It was given, he's got to get out in front of that. So that, and again, nobody's saying that that's what the case was. They were just using it as an example of a reason why someone might go to the FBI or something and say, get this out of my possession. I don't want this thing.
Yeah, because you don't want to hold on to it. I remember reading, this is completely unrelated in some ways, but I think a guy found someone's wallet and didn't return it to them until the next day, and he got into trouble because he held it for like 24 hours.
Yeah.
Instead of just returning it to the place it was lost at or something like that, even though I think he had the intention of returning it right away.
Yeah.
That's what this reminds me of. Like, if you have to get rid of these things, if there's a legal issue here.
But the thing is that Netflix is in every state, right?
Yes.
So different states could bring different charges. This is happening in Texas. And if Texas law says, yes, this particular movie falls under the category of this, illegal, it rises to the level of being illegal. You presented it to an audience, therefore you are responsible. Yeah, that could be pretty bad. And if they then have other cases that come up in other states, that could be a real problem. And let's face it, all of that aside, this is definitely a PR nightmare for them. So
they're not admitting it, though. They've never recanted anything on this, right?
Nope, they've doubled down on it, and so it's hurting them all the more. And so, is this at least partly to blame for slowing growth? Oh, almost certainly, because there are a lot of people that said, I'm done and I'm dropping them and I'm not using them anymore because of this. I don't think they picked up any business because of it. I don't think anyone said, oh, I want to support the company that's carrying Cuties just because, Yes, okay, maybe there are some people out there that really, really wanted to see that movie, but I think they're such a small minority of the population, it does not in any way counteract what they've lost. But there are a lot of other things going on in this world right now that are affecting streaming services in general. There is more competition. That Netflix used to dominate in the streaming services, and now they have. I mean, I could list more names of streaming services than I have fingers on my hands, you know?
But the best one is CBS All Access, though. I'm kidding. I'm kidding anyway, though. But I'm wondering too. Do you think that Cuties was originally meant maybe just for France or Europe, and that they brought it over here because they didn't have material to show?
Probably that was probably a big part of it.
We have nothing new because COVID has. Sorry, the beer bug.
Yeah, let's face it. Like I said, France has very different laws there, and there was no problem with them making it and distributing it in France. Soon as they send it to the U.S., France still has no problem with it. The company that made the movie still has no problem with it because we're France.
France is a different
stuff. U.S. Yeah.
And apparently, it's a France film, but there's even like different cultural minorities in France too that this was made by. So it's like a double thing over there.
Yeah.
And
people in the U.S. Well, I'm sure this is true all over the world, but I can only speak from our perspective. There's a lot of people in the U.S. that just don't understand how different cultures. Everyone wants to, protective of cultures and representation and SJW everything, but I don't think they really understand the cultures in other countries. The things that you think are right and important and whatnot don't translate in other countries. They look at you like you're an idiot.
Yeah. Even food,
Yeah. Well, yeah, even food. Oh gosh, yeah. Oh, I mean, just take a look at some of the foods that are considered snack foods over in Japan, and you'd look at it and you go, "That doesn't sound yummy." Well, that's maybe what you think would be a yummy food they think is disgusting, and many countries do. They just look at chocolate. Hershey's chocolate here in the United States, everybody loves it. You go over to Europe and they're like, it tastes like vomit. Seriously, that's exactly what they say.
You're talking to a guy who Hershey's chocolate works with other things. I don't like this. I eat it by itself because it's there, but like I prefer Mars.
Yep.
The Mars Chocolate Company. But I know why they hate Hershey's chocolate. It's because they don't use as much cocoa butter, I think, than I don't know.
Well, it has to do with the enzymes that they use to extract the liquors. I mean, I don't want to get too technical, but it does come out tasting kind of acidic. So I do see why they say it tastes like vomit, but it's a very cultural thing. You grow up as a kid eating chocolate. It's still sweet. It's still chocolate. It's still, oh boy, I get a treat. And that's your association with it from a very young age. If you are in the UK and you've only ever eaten Cadbury or, chocolates that you've gotten from the Swiss, and then you taste Hershey's, you go, oh my gosh, it tastes like vomit. You don't have that positive association with that flavor. The closest thing you have associated to that was the night you went out and had a bender running around with Tatiana and her friends,
That's one way of putting it.
Yeah, invoking the critical drinker there. But yeah, so cultures are different, and quit being the ugly American. Okay.
I will say this: Russian chocolate. Have you ever had it?
No, I haven't.
It's different. It has like jellies in it. Anyway, no, I didn't care for it. Anyway, I still ate it though because it's sweet, and
of course,
I'll eat sweets even if they're not great. That's the weird thing. I'm kind of, I have a sweet tooth, so
sure.
And I do like Hershey's Kisses, and in fact, Hershey's with almonds, I'll admit, is great. I like it with the almonds. Okay,
but the problem is that cultural differences aside, Netflix is a whole different ball of wax when it comes to what they consider acceptable and what they don't, which I think leads into our third topic.
Here we go. I got some things to say about this.
Well, you're going to have to, because this is not my area of expertise at all.
I am not an expertise.
I report, you explain.
Yes, leave me.
What is it? Japanese hentai is now banned in Australia.
Okay.
Cuties, just fine.
I have my own theory about what this is all about. Okay, Japanese hentai is now banned in Australia. I believe they're referring to the physical manga versions of this. instead of necessarily the animated stuff. Okay, which I'm sure is not allowed over there anyway. But I heard that stuff's not really in print like it used to be anyway.
Well, help me out here. When you say physical manga, what do you
like
mean by that?
comic books, manga.
Oh,
Say people yell at me when I say manga. It's manga. Okay, but okay.
no. I'm not giving you any grief about pronunciations. I don't know the difference.
Comics. Okay, and these are
so it's comic as opposed to animated features.
Yes, and these, and they're, and I think the big thing is that they're saying that, of course, sometimes there are underage women in these comics. Okay, sometimes they can even be younger than teenager. Okay, they might be prepubescent. Okay, and they don't like it. They're saying child pornography, showing depictions of children in a sexually explicit manner. Okay, this has been a big argument online. Okay, does it count if it's not an actual human being? If these are just drawn images? Okay, and this is an argument people have had. Okay, and I'm not saying that I read this stuff or want this stuff, but I do have a theory as to why they're doing it, and it's a little more convoluted. Okay. Because I read in this article that Astro Boy and Pokemon were being included in this. And I'm thinking part of the problem is, though, what do you end up considering to be pornographic? Okay. Because this is going on at the same time that Cuties retains its MA15 plus for strong themes, which is lower, I guess, than what the hentai got. Okay. Australian Christian lobby, they did meet with the communications minister, Paul Fletcher, but the appeal was unanimously voted down. Okay, so Cuties is fine over there, but the hentai isn't. Okay, and I have a theory as to why they are doing this, and this is where I get a little controversial for the night.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. Oh wait, here we go. Hold on, someone has a comment here. Casey Scott. RIP for our Australian fans. They get screwed over a lot. This is my theory as to what's going on here. Okay. I believe that not every Australian, obviously, because they could sell this over there, but maybe culturally there is hostility toward anime, manga, and maybe even some Japanese culture in general. I think that might be part of this. I don't necessarily have proof. This is just my speculating, okay?
Oh, so in other words, it's racism.
It's anti-Japanese sentiment that I believe is left over from World War II. Do you remember what it was like in the United States back in the 80s? Okay.
I do, but what are we referring to specifically?
Okay, I'm referring to even in the 80s growing up, I did notice among some older Americans there was still a lot of Japanese anti-Sentiment. They bombed Pearl Harbor and stuff.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you remember
my buddy's dad over in Hawaii, some Japanese tourist came up to him and said, can you help me? I'm trying to find the Arizona Memorial. He goes, it's out there in the harbor where you guys left it.
Here we go. And, when you're at war with another country, there are going to be hostile feelings. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that what he did was right, but I also understand I wasn't there at the time. I don't know the hatred, when your country's being attacked by an enemy, especially an enemy as formidable as the Empire of Japan.
Right.
I did watch that Midway movie recently, and I was originally and I was going to roll my eyes at it originally. I was like, oh no, it's this Roland Emmerich, and it's a World War II movie. But I actually thought it was rather good. And
the only thing I had against it was I wish they had made it into successive movies. There was like 3 movies that they
definitely
kind of condensed down into one. And I'm like, all of this could have been, a much bigger story.
Yeah. And there was a big thing there, and I actually thought it was being surprisingly fair to even the Japanese soldiers in it more than I thought it would have been.
Yeah.
Of course, that was a very nasty war we had with them.
Yep.
I do like to think that we're all allies now, and we've mended those fences now at this point, our respective countries.
I think for the most part, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think that's the case in other countries. Okay, and I do think there are bad, because I think that Australia and the British Empire in general, they were. At least I'm not a history buff, but just things I've heard, the Japanese hurt them. Okay.
Yeah. And I'll go even further. Yeah. It's become very clear that had things not gone the way they had, Japan had their sights on invading Australia.
Oh, definitely. They often say, "Why didn't they think of that?" Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, like Brian and Martin, Nintendo felt some of that when they first tried to market the NES in the US. Definitely. I have to tell you, it's I didn't get any of that because my I still got an NES as a kid, and I guess but they did have to make it look like an American system. They had to appeal to an American audience
Hmm.
back in those days, and it's and I do think there's still a lot of those lingering feelings in maybe even in Australia and Great Britain. I don't know if there are any Australian or British listeners here now, if maybe they know of any of this going on there, but it's just an impression I get. And this is my issue with what they're doing now. I think that they are using this to start labeling things as pornography that are not pornographic. Like maybe there's an anime series, an anime series or a manga series that has teenage girls at the beach in bathing suits. Okay.
Hmm.
And maybe they'll label that as pornographic. Okay, where's the line? Do you understand? Hot springs are a big thing in Japan. I have a joke that every anime has a hot springs episode. Okay,
Yeah.
they don't necessarily show nudity, or sometimes they do, but it's they may end up labeling that as pornographic.
Look, here's what it comes down to. That's fine, but you got to be legally consistent, right?
Yes.
I mean, if you're going to say this is, and that's fine. I mean, a portrayal of what is clearly, an underage person being exploited, even if it's not an actual person, but if your law is no depictions of it, then you can't be okay with Cuties. Then you can't. The law has got to apply to both things equally.
And this is where I would argue it's kind of a double standard here.
It's absolutely a double standard.
I haven't seen Cuties. That sort of stuff I really don't want to go near, even just to as a what do you call it? Even though it's technically legal for me to watch it, it's just
I totally get that. I mean,
nothing to do with that. But
I absolutely agree with you, and I think it's fine that there's some people out there that well, even Viva Fry, when he was talking about it, he's like, I refuse to watch it. I can only comment based on what I've heard about it, and so on and so forth.
And I've seen other YouTubers saying, I watched it, so you don't have to. They've had videos like that.
Yeah.
And I just do think that this is a reason for them to kind of sort of purge a foreign art form that is gaining popularity. Now, maybe I'm speculating and I'm completely wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
But I do think that's what it is. And this is when I say to a lot of you anime fans out there that are often, pushing your hobby, pushing your hobby on other people. You may not necessarily want it to get too popular, because sometimes when things get popular, that's when you get people
gets under a microscope then. Yeah.
And people get involved in the hobby that you don't want there. The sweet spot is popular enough that you can just go and buy what you want and people leave you alone. Okay. Yeah. And, and I understand the enthusiasm. I mean, I say this now, but when I was in my early 20s, I kept trying to get people to watch all sorts of anime shows, Yeah. It was a thing because, you find this amazing thing and you're enthusiastic and you want to share it with other people. But just be careful, because sometimes you don't want the thing that you love under a microscope. And let's be honest, we've been dealing with everything we love under a microscope in the past few years.
That's for sure.
DC Comics, Star Trek, and they're trying to make things for everyone. But things can't be for everyone, okay? Every art form is going to offend somebody, okay? But it's a question of whether or not, in this case, children are being exploited. And Australia has their own laws. I'm not Australian. I have no control over what they make over there. It goes, or what they censor over there. It's their own country. I know that from what I've heard, their lockdowns been worse than us due to the bug. And it's just. That's what I think is going on here. And, it's kind of sad. I don't know how they are with video games over there. I know that Germany used to be terrible with video games. I often make a joke about a Sega Genesis game called Shadow Dancer, which I'm sure the professor still has. It got banned over in Germany because it shows children in peril, but you're rescuing the children in peril, right? You're playing a ninja rescuing people kidnapped by evil ninjas, okay? And that got banned in Germany because there's a rule saying you can't show children in peril in a video game. And to this day, Sega won't release it over there.
It's funny because this comes down to legalities, right? And sometimes well-intentioned laws have very, unintended consequences. Well, the wording of the law says this, therefore this is illegal. And everyone goes, well, that's stupid. Well, what are we going to do? That's the way the law is worded.
The wording of the law. Then it's going to take the companies publishing this stuff. Is this the hill you want to die on?
Right.
Especially for material that's considered in bad taste, probably by the majority of the public, whether they're
and not to get off topic, because I know you really don't want to turn this into a game news stream. But I was listening to, I guess there was a news piece that came out just recently about a lawsuit in, I want to say the Netherlands, against EA Games, because they have laws about gambling. And they said that EA Games was running afoul of gambling laws because of loot crates.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah.
You know what? That might be a highlight. Maybe we should do a highlight episode of horror stories from the last decade.
Yeah.
I hate loot crates. I actually do think what EA is doing is bad.
Yep.
This is another thing where Disney got into trouble again. Kathleen Kennedy, Lucasfilm got into trouble again because the loot boxes. Because this is a game that's probably being marketed to children. You want to get your Luke Skywalker character, you have to pay to get a random loot box that may or may not have them. It's kind of incentivizing gambling.
It absolutely is.
And it's no, I'm against loot boxes. There's no excuse for loot boxes. And I by and large don't. I mean, I'm not a big fan of gambling because I do think it is addictive. But but we have in this country, we have certain places you can go if you want to do it. Okay, and I think that
if you're an adult,
an adult,
it's very different for children.
Yeah, you got the. I want to borrow the credit card. It's like. That would happen. Have you heard about the cell phone games? The parent getting the bill for like thousands of dollars. It's like, yeah, you have to be careful. So yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
Yep.
And Germany has always had an authoritarian streak, and they gave us that German Nationalist Party. I can't say by name, and communism.
Right. Okay. Exactly.
Even though it's historical fact, and I think that's the stupidest thing because no one's in favor of either of those things. I would think, well, some people are these days, but
I have come to the conclusion that if you are a dictator and you have a bad mustache, you're a bad person.